So all that we've known so far is that Greta is a goat lover. So, let's talk about the scorpion rules, shall we? For those who don't know me, I guess I would consider myself as a bookworm, though I think we don't really refer to us as that anymore. But I'm also not one with an extremely critical eye. I rarely don't finish books, and I rarely find gripes with characters. I'm a pretty, I would say, passive reader when it comes to it. I just like enjoying the books and immersing myself in the world, regardless of how ridiculous the situations are. But this book right here, I have never encountered a book where it took me so much effort to read. This is actually my 5th time attempting to finish the book, which I did it on the 5th time, but my first few tries I didn't make it past like the 3rd chapter, and I'm prepared to tell you why. Alright, let's get into the book itself. So The Scorpion Rules by Erin Bow. It's basically set in a far distant future, a dystopian era book, which I guess I'll just read the summary to you. "The world is at peace," said the utterances, "and really, if the odd princess had a hard day, is that too much to ask? Greta is a duchess and crown princess and a hostage to peace. This is how the game is played. If you want to rule, you must give one of your children as a hostage. Go to war, and your hostage dies. Greta will be free until she can survive until her 18th birthday. Until then, she lives in the preceptor school with the daughters and sons of the world's leaders. Like them, she is taught to obey the machines that control their lives. Like them, she is prepared to die with dignity if she must. But everything changes when a new hostage arrives. Elian is a boy who refuses to play by the rules, a boy who defies everything Greta has ever been taught. And he opens Greta's eyes to the brutality of the system they live under, and to her own power. As Greta and Elian watch their nations tip closer to war, Greta becomes a target in a new kind of game. A game that will end up killing them both unless she can find a way to break all the rules." Great plot premise. Like, I personally am totally on board with this idea. Having a hostage and having them their lives be forfeit because a maniacal sort of like world leader or like AI that's taken over the world says so, and they have to sort of find a way to break out from under this system. Personally, great. That totally, reading the summary totally sold me on the plot of this book. If only it was executed well. My first gripe with the book is that there is too much world building and not enough world building. Like, she focuses on details that are way, way too insignificant. Like, and I think most people will agree with, for the rest of this review, there are too many goddamn goats in this book, and it does not play a single ounce of world building that goes into it. It's just about these kids farming and goat herding for like, I don't know, maybe a good 100 pages if you put them all together. I think if we were counting, there's over 125 goats mentioned in this book. That's how many times a goat has been mentioned, and yet the only time it really came into play or like actually had a significant plot point was like at the very end for this like one little moment, which I don't think necessitates the fact that I had to read more than 4 to 5 pages like in a row about goats and about herding goats. Okay, let me give you the first instance of when goats were introduced. I will command an army of 10,000 foot soldiers and 5,000 light cavalry. But in this moment, I do not know how to get that goat down from that tree. Chapter 2. So I haven't even gotten attached to the characters themselves yet, but yet I have to already learn about how they farm and how they herd these goats, and I have no idea how it plays into their whole world. Bat brain, get down, Thandie shouted, because shouting at goats is always the answer. The goat, whose name genuinely was Bat brain, lifted up her tail. Droppings fell like rain. Thandie leapt backwards.
And when I mean that there are a lot of goats, I mean that there are a lot of goats.
We wanted to go with him, of course, but wait, the goat, I called. We go again, the stuffed goat shouted. My classmates stopped going, and the goats kept us hungry. I am a goat, I can reach many apples. I am a goat, I am a tree.
It was at this moment that he knew.
So, all that we've known so far is that Greta is a goat lover. That's one of my biggest gripes, and it's not just, I think, the numerous accounts of goats farming, potato farming, pumpkin farming, apple picking. It's also the fact that I think the world building that is structured just isn't full enough on the aspects that are actually interesting, like the AI or the robots or how their school is structured. There's also a lot of emphasis on precepture and panopticon, which I think eventually if you kept going you would maybe be able to sort itself out, but it kind of relies on the fact that you understand the idea of panopticon.
For those who don't know what panopticon theory is, the panopticon is a disciplinary concept brought to life in the form of a central observation tower placed within a circle of prison cells. Introduced by English philosopher Jeremy Bentham, he thought through the seemingly constant surveillance, all groups of society could be altered. If you want to read more about what panopticon theory is, I have put a link in the description box down below that you can read. It's actually really, really interesting, and I would read it just in general, just to have, but yeah.
If you haven't done any like panopticon theory or what a panopticon is, you would have to go and look that up to feel the full extent of the book. And I don't think it's necessarily written so like explicitly well to the point where you don't need to like gain outside information and bring it in. I found a lot of the times that the things that she doesn't explain are the things that I'm often left wondering about, which is whether or not these AI or these robots are meant to be human-like or felt like they were supposed to retain their human emotions, because constantly at every other turn they're questioning, yeah, like, do they even have feelings? And you're like, okay, so those kind of connotations make me think, like, they're literally saying it. Oh, do they have feelings? Like, I thought they were supposed to have feelings, yada, 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 when they're talking about the AI. And yet, all of the AI actually seem more human than the actual the characters and the humans in this book, which then confuses me in this world building where I'm like, so are we supposed to regard as these AIs as just like super intelligent beings but with human emotions? Are they like, if humans became the AI, is it like they got to retain every human part of them, but then they just didn't, like they just have like amazing supercomputer brains? Those are all the questions that I just don't think were delved into enough. And yet, I'm not somebody that likes being explicitly told, hey, this is how it is. But when you don't add enough of the nuance and enough of the ideas that surround this very important part of the sci-fi genre, you just leave your readers lost and confused and, quite frankly, pretty bored. I think that because of all this extra details about their lives and the actual people and how I guess they go through their daily lives with the goats and the farming, you actually really lose out on all the characterization that could happen, which brings me to my next point. The characters are fucking boring. I didn't like a single person in here except for the main bad guy, I guess. Spoiler alert, Talus, which is a big boss AI, the one that has taken over the world, like, eventually comes down and, like, is able to interact with these children of peace. And yeah, that AI is the only thing that saved this book from chapter, like, I would say maybe 18 and on, got better because Talus was sort of introduced. I say chapter 18, but I actually don't really know. But yeah, the first instance that we meet Greta, she's supposed to be this royalty, this leader, and this person that every one of these children look up to, and yet I find her really annoying and disliking almost everything that she does. So, context for this part. This is like chapter 1. Yeah, chapter 1. And they see a swan rider in the distance, and a swan rider only comes to their preceptor when they need to basically take one of the children and kill them because that country's hostage has declared war on another country, which breaks the rules. So this is sort of laying out that path that this kid named Sydney and Greta, their countries have always been sort of on the verge of war. And so when they see this swan rider in the distance coming towards them, they sort of have this like understanding that it's either going to be Sydney or Greta. And so I guess, like, it's supposed to put in this factor of, like, they live in this constant fear of who knows of when they're going to sort of get axed at any point. "Children," he said in his gentle, dusty voice, "I'm afraid there's bad news. It's an intra-American conflict. The Mississippi Delta Confederacy has declared war on Tennessee and Kentucky." "What?" said Sydney, his hand ripped out of mine. So, in this context, Sydney is actually is from the Mississippi Delta Confederacy, so basically his life is now forfeit. "What?" said Sydney, his hand ripped out of mine. My heart leapt. I felt dizzy, blind, sick with joy. I was not going to die. Only Sydney was. I was not going to die. Only Sydney. Cool, Greta. Super cool. Literally, context from before, she was saying how kind of like, oh, we knew each other and everything, and like, you know, she took his hand and we're like holding it together, and I would die with grace and dignity. And then Sydney's name gets called, and she's like, oh, phew, dodged a bullet there. Thank God it's only him. Oh my gosh. Oh, did not want to die with you. I didn't have enough time to get attached to Sydney, but now, because of this context, I'm really not attached to Greta, because this is not exactly the way that I would see it. Sure, any natural reaction is relief. That totally makes sense. I think feeling dizzy, blind, and relieved would have made sense. But sick with joy, I was not going to die, only Sydney was. I'm not going to die, only Sydney. Greta, whoa. Like, damn, these loyalties be really, there are no loyalties. Greta genuinely is as interesting as week old bread, like that stale piece of bread that you leave under counter because you forgot about it. Yeah, that's Greta. I found myself having no attachment to her whatsoever, and even when she did have this sort of character arc and her whole worldview gets shifted, I still didn't see a personal good development in a way that I was like, oh, I finally connect to the way that you think. I was just constantly being left in the dust. Which brings me to my next point on what I did not like about this book. It's the love triangle. And I put love triangle in quotes because I almost can't categorize this as love triangle. Kinda. It's just like Greta kissing people. Like, when you have characters that are very one-dimensional and bland, it's almost hard for me to say that these are relationships, as more just like, you are close to me in proximity and therefore I will kiss you. And it's weird because Greta and Dasha that's her roommate and her best friend. And the escalation from best friend to you are my whole world seems a very big jump, where I maybe can see it if it was like, it makes the most sense. Greta and Dasha have been roommates for forever, like pretty much ever since that they've been in the precepture. Dasha has been there for her, but Greta being so cold and I guess closed off or just like one track minded is very willing to be like, oh well, yeah, like we've been friends forever, and Dasha is over here being like, I'm playing coyotes with all the other dudes in the precepture, like, girl, you should get out sometime. And it just is a weird sense of, I think that this escalation of best friends to lover was only spurred on by the fact that that there was this new boy that had entered in the precepture, and just sort of trying to give it some sort of oomph factor that just I don't think made sense. I have nothing against the relationship in itself. I think it could have been good if it was developed more, because they had the groundwork set. They're best friends, they know each other. But at every twist and turn, it just seems like they're just best friends that occasionally kiss each other. And then with Greta and Elian, it's just that they like kiss each other because the moment asked for it. Which is another reason why I have a gripe with the love triangle, because it constantly seems like the elements of romance that were dabbled into the book were meant to just be this weird way of making a profound moment. Like, every time Greta was like, oh my gosh, things are not the way that they are. Smooch, love you. Like, there are the sparks, there are the fireworks, and like the wind is blowing, and like, and it just makes it seem like the only way that Greta was able to like come to these moments was because like Elian was having a heart to heart, and he was like, he touched her knee and he was like, you know, I'm here for you, or like whatever, like he says. And then Greta was like, you are, and then they kiss. And then every other fucking turn, Dasha sees them kissing and she's like, oh. And like, only Greta seems to feel the need to be like, we're not, this isn't, but like, it doesn't seem to take Dasha by surprise all that much. She just kind of goes, oh, haha, like, that's a thing. And then later on, when Greta goes through some emotional turmoil and Dasha is there, and then they're like, oh my gosh, you know, like, this is maybe I'm going to die soon. And then Dasha is like, you know, you're gonna leave with dignity and whatever. And then they like embrace each other and like love each other. And again, it's this profound moment of like, Greta is like stepping into her new life and she doesn't want to leave behind any regrets, and romantic moment enters. Like, and then we get like other people barging in, and then she kisses Elian again because she sacrificed herself for him, and he was like, he kisses her and he's like, but you don't love me. And then Greta was like, it's complicated. And I'm like, bitch, it's not complicated, you don't really love him, but it's whatever. Like, so it just doesn't seem like there's any sort of relationship or romance to speak of. These are just little like catalysts or points where Greta understands something and then the romance happens, because that's the only way that she's gonna get information into her head, is because like, oh, something happened and this feels like the right time to kiss. I guess my final rating for this book would be 2 goats out of 5 goats. I think my final words would be that there aren't enough scorpions in a book for it to be called Scorpion Rules, and it should honestly just be called The Goat Rules instead. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any other books that you can recommend, or if you have any books that you would want me to sort of talk about, I think I'm just gonna keep picking books from my own personal bookshelf to rant about. But if you enjoyed it, I hope you guys will consider subscribing and leaving a like and comment down below. Until the next one. Man, you're just a zucchini hating boy, Sydney, and you died that way in Greta's mind.